Hello, welcome back. Another English podcast with Paul. I'm glad you're here. Hope you're all well. And I hope you're sitting comfortably and ready for this next episode, shall we say. All right, okay, so let's dive in. Subtext. All right, what is it? So it's kind of like an enthusiasm for saying one thing but meaning another. Why, I hear you ask? Well, like corporations, it's to say something negative but disguise it in a polite wrapper. I'll come to some examples in a moment. How? Often it's a statement that is positive with subtle changes in tonality and inflections and facial expressions and body language to change the meaning of it. Okay, first example. Oh, Samantha, your dress is delightful. Wow, Jenny, what a strong legs you have. My, Leah, your ankles are some girth. Okay, now, it's normally around corporations, jargon. No, not exactly jargon, but around corporations and some of the way they choose to put their statements across to the public. And then mostly it's around women. I don't know why, but mostly women choose to speak in subtext. Men and women communicate very, very differently, as we know. Men are much more to the point. Men are much more logical and direct. Whereas women really care about the feelings of another person. So women are very, very, very tactful and careful and articulate at how they phrase something. So the purpose, for example, would be like in an office situation where one lady, doesn't like another lady or wants to have a little dig at another lady. Because women are very, very sensitive to tonality, body language and everything else. So let's pretend one lady is having a bad day. She had an argument with her husband at home. She comes into the office and then she says to her one of her colleagues, "Oh, could you put that through the photocopier, please, and get it back to me as quick as possible?" So what she's actually saying is that she wants something photocopied as quick as possible. And that's just a factual statement. But the tonality and the speed and probably her body language conveys that she is very frustrated and under duress and maybe got some other issues. Now, often the other colleague that she's talking to might not know her situation at home and so feel that it's a personal attack on maybe the receptionist or the other person that's having to do the photocopying, that's being asked to do the chore. So that other person will take it as a personal attack and think that that person doesn't like them. So in response, they'll have conversation or statements saying, "I've done this," or "Can we do that?" back and forth, but with a lot of tonality and infliction of negative connotations. All right. So to help me, I do have a lot of notes here, so forgive me. All right. I'm not going to read everything. So, if you see me looking down a little bit, or for those that are listening, if you hear some rattling of paper, it's because I got my notes here. Now, being a man, it is not an easy subject to understand myself. I've of my age, I've lived with women, and often women have tried to give men hints or me hints regards to birthday presents, Christmas presents, anniversary presents, this kind of thing. And being a stupid man as I am, I often don't pick up on the subtleties of a woman's communication. She might say, "Oh, I really like these gold earrings." And then she might talk about something else and something else. And in my man's brain, I might not have picked up on the fact that what she's actually saying is, "Listen, Paul, I want these gold earrings for my birthday." All right, that's what the subtext is. The subtext is, "I want these gold earrings for my birthday. I'm saying it to you on purpose." Another way a woman might do this is leave a magazine with the page open on a pair of gold earrings with a big pen circled around it and leave it on the coffee table. But most men don't take no notice. It's just a magazine left on the coffee table. They don't realise that it's been put there on purpose, on that page, circled with a pen, on purpose. But myself often doesn't pick up on things like that. So that's some of the reasons why there's subtleties. And then women think that we should read their minds, that we should understand what they're thinking and feeling, and so have compassion and empathy for what they're going through. Where in reality, men are normally so tired and worn out from the physical work or from their actual job that when they come home, they want to rest and relax and forget about the fighting of the war out at work. Maybe you're a builder on a building site and you're having to deal with scaffolders and foremen, and you got to carry and lift all these things. So you're physically exhausted, you're mentally exhausted, you got the weather, and then on top of that, you're probably thinking about all the bills you got to pay. You're probably thinking about some issue with the neighbour that's getting you down, or a barking dog so you didn't sleep so well. So men think about different things, much more sort of caveman-istic things in their communication, their thought process, whereas women are much more thinking about community, relationships, and keeping their homeostasis, the balance of equilibrium between the female people in our support group. Anyway, that's just a blanket statement. That's my perspective and my opinions. All right, okay. So what else we got? So most men won't even notice some women. Some women rarely target men. So women rarely target men because men often don't even notice this subtext. That's why I'm explaining the massive difference between men and women. In my country anyway. It might not be the same in your country. Often, like I said, women don't target men because they're just too oblivious to it, too unaware of it. Right. So I said about subtext, words and phrases not directly relating to the desired of the outcome. Men will say, this is beating about the bush. So beating about the bush is another form of subtext and another form of communication. So, for example, if a woman wants something to be done, to get done, quite often she may elicit hints towards that thing, or elicit actions and movement towards that thing that she wants you to action upon, whether that's in a work environment or whether that's at home, but not actually say the actual thing, which really unfathoms men, that they can't fathom why a woman would do that. But it's because women have the idea that they want the man to think of it. They want the man to have the initiative and the foresight to be able to understand what the woman is implying to happen or to get done. So for example, a woman might or a mother might put some rubbish, some litter on the bin, and maybe move the bin to the middle of the kitchen so the husband might get the hint that it needs taken out. Or, she might move something in his path. I don't know, maybe a bin bag something else that needs to go outside, maybe some recycling or some other thing that needs to be moved. She might put it in his path, hoping he'll trip over it and go, oh yeah, I need to do that, and then move it. So that's another form of beating about the bush. And I think that phrase comes from when aristocracy would shoot birds such as pheasants. And so they would hire peasants or younger, lower class people to have an actual stick and hit the bushes and run in and around the bushes and the undergrowth to flush out the birds to fly up in the air so the aristocracy could shoot them. and it's called beating about the bush because the man was named a beater. He would beat the bushes and the undergrowth. So there we go, bit of history as well. All right, moving on. Often subtext is used in workplaces where women can be blatantly rude about other people without fear of consequences. Because the words are benign, statement, and inflection or tone is subjective. All right, so if your boss says, hang on, let me rephrase this. So if a colleague says something to you and your colleague uses a benign phrase, well, I only asked them to do this and this, it can then be reported to the boss that what the person said was actually just a statement of fact. There was no swearing in it. There was no anger in it. So it's subjective, what one person said to another person. So that's very difficult to get in trouble for it. But yet both women know the body language, the tonality, and the inflections and the subtleties. Very, very subtle. I don't even notice it myself 99.9% of the time. It's what I've learned from conversations with women. And a fun fact, this is new to me as well, but a fun fact is that when a woman walks into a big room full of lots of people, she is only being judged by all those other women. Those other women are looking at her in a glance, and they're looking at her to try and work out whether she deserves respect and or some way they can be negative towards that woman. So, for example, if that woman comes over to her man and say, oh, what a handsome man, and starts to be nice, that woman could then turn around and go, oh, yeah, shame about your shoes. Where did you get them? Last year's new look, last year's this season, and be derogatory to try and bring the other person back down. So when that woman walks into the room and she wants to make sure she's perfect with her hair, her makeup, her clothes, her shoes, everything, it's because women are judging her. And I was like, wow, why? I thought you women are all about connectivity and being together and helpful. But no, majority of women and women's groups are very much quite nasty towards each other. It's really bizarre. I don't get it. Oh well. All right, okay, moving on. Right, what we got? Other times it'll be used for parents to talk about a subject in front of the children that they don't want the children to understand. Again, much like enthusiasm. I keep saying enthusiasm. Not enthusiasm. I don't want the word enthusiasm. Beg your pardon. Euphemisms. They look very similar. Euphemisms. So that, like I said, a euphemism is a word that can mean something very different. One word I used as a euphemism in the past was late. L-A-T-E. So if somebody says, oh, look, you're very late, then that means that they're not on time. But another meaning for that word is somebody that's deceased, somebody that's dead. A woman might say, oh, my late husband Jeffrey was such a kind man. My late husband. So my late meaning dead husband. So this euphemisms. You might want to talk about, I don't know, going to the dentist or going on a holiday or talking about Santa Claus. And you would use euphemisms or other ways of expressing a particular situation or scenario that you need to talk to your other partner in the relationship without the children in earshot. In earshot, meaning, being able to hear what's said. So what have I got for an example for that then? This is my example. Did you hear our neighbour last night? It was very late and they were playing doctors and nurses again. I think they forgot to use their indoor voices because she was very happy with God and they were stamping their feet with excitement. Took me a while to think of that one, but that one made me chuckle. All right. Another place you would read this might be in a corporate speech. So yeah, going back, not just sort of jargon, but actual tone and implication of an email, possibly, because often an email is internal. To staff, lower down the chain, often implied punitive measures for non-compliance of policies and procedures. That was a mouthful, wasn't it? Right. Punitive measures. Punitive measures. So punitive measures just means that something negative, all right? A negative action is going to happen if you do this, all right? So in a workplace, depending on the workplace, some workplaces are quite horrible from my experience. So this is my example. It has come to our attention that some employees are not clocking in for just themselves. Measures are being implemented. Furthermore, anyone deemed to be interfering with clocking in machines may be subject to disciplinary measures. Also, fraudulent activity will be reported to the police. So that's kind of a real snotty email to the employees, because in the UK, I don't know about in your country, but we used to clock in. So it would be a card, or even digital these days, to show a computer or a clock or a machine that you've came into the building and you started your shift of work. And then at the end of work, or even on your break, you might have to clock out on your break time, on your dinner time, and then clock back in again. And what used to happen is that often maybe one person would be delegated to clock in for 3 or 4 people. She said, oh yeah, get my name out of the machine, and then clock it in, and then do so-and-so's, and then do Fred's, and then do Jane's. So one person might do that so that other people might be able to finish their dinner or finish their cigarette, and then they say, oh yeah, I'll be in a minute. So they're actually, well, they are kind of like stealing longer time of their break they're taking. And that was kind of a common practice, especially back decades ago. But obviously, the company really doesn't like it and gets quite angry, rightly so, because you're taking longer than you should, and it's not fair on your colleagues. But that's something that used to happen, and I don't know if it happens in your country. But nowadays we have a digital version, and where I work sometimes, they have a camera, so they can see it's you that's clocked in for yourself, not somebody else clocked in for you. And like I said, the tone and the attitude in this memo is quite strong and authoritarian, like a policeman telling you off. All right, and some of the words they use. So, for example, measures are being implemented. So, implemented, being used. Measures are being used. So instead of just saying, we're going to stop this, or we're going to make sure this doesn't happen, they've used measures are being implemented. Anyone deemed interfering with the clocking in machines may be subject to disciplinary measures. So they're basically threatening you with the sack, with being fired, with losing your job. If you mess with the machine, you might get fired. And we might also tell the police that you're stealing from us in regards to hours and timesheets. So they're really threatening in that message. Okay. Sometimes subtext is in the form of a passive-aggressive signage, often in a workplace. So here's another example. Please leave this kitchen area as you would your own. Others have to work here too. And at the end would be an exclamation mark. All right, so that's passive aggressive. And it's passive aggressive because it's implemented in its words. Obviously, with the exclamation mark at the end is like a or else, And others have to work here too. That's like that's just basically saying that. And again, it's the tone of the notice, saying that basically it's implying that you might be a dirty animal, but there's nice people that work here. You can be a dirty animal, but the nice people that work here don't want that. So make it nice and clean and tidy when you're finished. Again, this is often from HR and from women, because men generally are much more relaxed. They might think that they've got more important things to worry about than washing out a cup and tipping away the tea bags, throwing away the tea bags and things like this, where women are normally have higher values of cleanliness and standards of cleanliness, and feel that it's part of their environment that they live in and that they're working in, and like almost like it's part of their home, and so they want it to be nice and clean. So that's just the different styles, I guess, or different attributes between men and women and workplaces. In my experience, anyway, may be very different to your experience. Right, okay, so moving on, what have we got next then? Rattling the papers, excuse me. Okay. So passive aggressive is very, very common in the UK. Now, I don't know if it's so common in your country, but in the UK it's really common. People don't want physical confrontation. So one man will very, very rarely go up to another man and threaten him directly. Men often try to just want to get on with one another. And so men will very, very rarely be passive aggressive, unless it's a case of authority, and maybe the smaller man might be higher up in authority to somebody lower than him that's bigger and stronger than him. So he's then trying to use the power dynamics to try and make the other person feel bad. And that's basically what passive aggressive is. It's trying to put across some negative feelings to the other person. It's a bit like being condescending as well. Condescending is similar. So, passive aggressive. Often you find it more often from women. Again, because they don't have the muscle and the skeleton and the intimidating size factor. In general, like I say, this is just a blanket statement. In general, they don't have that. So they try to use the policies within HR, human resources, within the company to try and bully or trying to intimidate the employee into doing what is allegedly correct or right, what's proper, the exact proper way. All right. Like I said, that's why it's mostly women. Passive aggressive is tone and attitude through the communication. Okay. Yeah, so like I said, it's like exerting dominance and maybe hierarchy or seniority. All right. The person being passive aggressive can argue it is not, and blame the other person for misunderstanding them. If called out. So again, it's like I said earlier in regards to the two women that say a statement to one another, it's very difficult to prove that what they said is in fact mean, nasty, derogatory, or not very nice. It's subjective. Again, it's individual people can be subjective. I mean, I've been in trouble in the past where I worked in a care home as the manager. And I asked somebody, I said, look, the social services have asked us to change the format in which we give them this information. So I understand you worked very hard on delivering this, all this information, all the time it's taken to make it and put it down like that. But we need to put it on a different format for the people that are paying. And you know, I was a young manager. I was stupid. I thought that was quite normal and polite way to deliver it, but apparently not. The young lady that put all that effort and all that time and all that energy into the report got very, very upset, cried and stormed out, and then everybody looked at me like I was the bad guy. So that took a little bit of time for me to understand. All right. Again, that's okay. What have we got now? So here's an example. Paul, as you've been spending so much time away from your desk, you must have finished that work I've set you. In which case, here are 5 more accounts to audit before you go home. I tried to emphasize some of the words there and put a little bit of veracity behind my voice and behind the words. So again, in that example, the implications because one's been away from their desk. Now, in this example, nobody's asked whether I've had an upset tummy or whether I've been off crying or I've got some other issue. So you spent a lot of time away from your desk. You must have finished. All right, so that's very passive aggressive. You must have did this. You must have did that. Passive aggressive. All right. And in which case then you're being punished by here's 5 more counts before you go home. All right, so passive aggressive with punitive measures. All right, but what a good manager might say, and I've got one ready here as an example. A good manager might say, "Hi Paul, can I have a quiet word when you have a moment? Thank you." "Paul, I observe you've been absent from your desk a lot today. Are you feeling unwell? Or have you an issue I can help you with?" And I might reply, "Yeah, I've had a stomach ache or a family emergency or a bereavement. Maybe my dog's died." If no, then a good manager might say, "Paul, you are a very important part of this team and I have every faith in you to excel in your part. If there's anything I can do to support you further, please ask. If you're not happy, please tell me and we can work on a positive resolution. Your happiness is paramount, even if it's in a different department or even a different company. We appreciate you here, Paul, and we want to help." Again, with positive body language and a smile to echo their intention. So like I said about the body language, it really does echo somebody else's underlining thoughts and feelings. That's often why they say when you answer the phone you should smile, because it kind of echoes. Your body language and your smile echoes and resonates across to the other people. That's why face-to-face meetings are much more powerful than a conversation via email. Email could be misunderstood, whereas a face-to-face conversation is much more difficult to get the wrong end of the stick. And then on from that, I would say that often you find that children and animals can tell whether somebody is being authentic as well. Because often people will say one thing but mean something else. So like I said, often women and children and dogs are much more attuned to a person, subconsciously anyway, to a person's body language of their intentions. Which is quite unusual, quite bizarre, quite an interesting thing. All right, okay. I've got a question for you. Is there similar hidden meanings in your language? And what phrases or examples would you like to share in the comments below? Okay. Hidden meanings, hidden phrases. Interesting topic, I think. Okay, let me have you any comments down below. I'd be very interested to find out. All right, that's it for today. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, don't forget to subscribe. That does help. Hit the like button. And if you want, you can have me in your pocket. Yes, Podbean app has all my episodes all in one place. All the podcast episodes in one place. And it's free. It's free. You can have it in your pocket all the time. All right, that's it for now. You've heard enough of my voice for one day. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care for now. Bye-bye.